Hello, this is Jessi Sletten from Empowering Postpartum. Welcome to the Spanglish World Networks on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app is totally free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire Sticks, Roku, and Roku Sticks. Also on all smart TVs 2016 and forward. So welcome back to episode 2, and I am so excited to be here again. My name is Jessi Sletten, and I am your postpartum empowerment coach, helping you feel confident, prepared, holistically supported for your unique journey into parenthood. All right, now that we've settled in to our virtual space here on Zingo TV, let's dive into the heart of today's discussion, building your ideal postpartum experience. I want you to just indulge me for a minute here, okay? So let's just take a minute. If you have a nice warm beverage like I do, go ahead and just settle in, get comfortable, and I want you to close your eyes. Place your hands on your belly. Feel that connection to your baby growing within. And I want you to picture your ideal postpartum. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What do you hear? What do you smell? How do you feel settling in to this space? And if you're like so many of us expecting parents, I'm sure that this beautiful picture that you're envisioning is this just like warm, squishy baby snuggles, right? And you're breathing in that delicious new baby smell. And you're sitting there spending hours skin to skin, staring in wonder at this little miracle that you've created, right? Finally out of the belly and into your arms. And you're just fully immersed, right? You're embracing the fact that baby is here and you're present and you're in just this blissful and joyful just feeling of being together. Now, while this dream of this beautiful and blissful postpartum is not completely unrealistic, don't get me wrong, like this is possible, this can happen. The truth is that the reality of it is often much more raw and vulnerable and exhausting, right? So recognizing the physical and mental and emotional challenges after birth allows us to prepare ahead of time so we can make these beautiful moments possible. And I think that that's something that's so important and often overlooked when we're imagining this beautiful postpartum time frame, right? Is we kind of have our rosy glasses on and we're not really told or taught or exposed to some of the things that also come along with our early 4th trimester timeframe, right? Pregnancy and labor leaves us depleted, tired, sore. And so making the recovery process as easy and supportive as possible has to be a priority. So if we don't, all we can focus on when we're actually in those moments in real time outside of these beautiful visions, all we can really focus on is that physical pain and that exhaustion and the overwhelm of being a new parent rather than on that beautiful bonding moment that we have pictured in our mind, right? Of being able to bond with our baby in these beautiful moments of the 4th trimester life. And I think so often when we are pregnant, our excitement for bringing baby home is just, it's intoxicating, right? We're so excited. We're focused on getting all the latest and greatest things for baby, the best car seats, the best cribs, the best baby monitors. All these things are so focused on baby, on building baby's space, the nursery, right? And we don't really think about or know to think about that the recovery space is even more important than the nursery, right? Because for so many parents, a lot of times we have this beautiful separate nursery space, but it usually goes unused for several months after birth because we want baby close to us, right? We usually room share, and that's actually a safe sleep practice, is to in separate sleep spaces, but share a room, right, with our baby so we can be close. We can be more attuned to their sounds, their noises, their needs, and we can be close together. And so while, creating this beautiful space for baby is fun and it's important, and we do want that space for them eventually, if we're able to in our home, it's not really the priority right away. Because this focus on the baby and the baby space and everything baby needs is so culturally driven, right? The birth giver becomes secondary in every aspect. And we don't think about the trauma of recovering from birth and figuring out how to, feed ourselves and recover and care for our healing bodies, and understanding that this space that we have to do these things in is extremely important, because we want it to be able to be supportive of those healing needs. So we often are so fixated on creating this perfect nursery, right? And preparing everything for bringing baby home. And let's be honest, I mean, that sweet, beautiful crib and the adorable decorations are not what you need to recover after birth, right? It's time that we shift our perspective and acknowledge the importance of this dedicated postpartum recovery space that will not only support your healing and your well being, but also this desire for you to have this cocooned bonding space and time to really connect with your little one. Because if we are so consumed by feeling awful in our postpartum bodies because of, stitches or whatever we're having to deal with recovery wise physically, on top of this big adjustment we're having with our role and who we are and our identity and all these different things, it's very difficult, and it can get in the way of connecting with our baby. So, the truth that I hope you walk away from this episode with, and as we dive deeper into these concepts throughout the weeks together, is that birth is a trauma. You can have the easiest, least complicated labor and delivery as possible, but your body still recognizes the transformative birthing process and pregnancy and all the aftermath of labor as a trauma to your body. And so the recovery process and the space within that we complete this process needs to match that need. So having that space and everything we need to be able to, recover wholly and deeply, and to be able to nourish our body back to health and all of these things, we need to prioritize that so that we're not exerting all this extra energy in finding what we need in the moment, right? Because when we're tired and sore and we're just so overwhelmed by everything, adjusting to newborn life, we're not going to have our wits about us to think about, okay, where did I put that, Peri bottle that I need, right? Like, we want everything organized and within hand's reach so that it's easy for us to make our healing and our recovery process a priority the easiest way possible. So to make that beautiful vision that you had at the beginning of your ideal postpartum actually become a reality, we need this mindset shift that I'm talking about here. So for the vast majority of us, our perfect fourth trimester experience is not just going to naturally happen. It just doesn't. We have to be able to take control of how we are entering into new motherhood. And I think that that piece is what the empowering piece really is understanding that we do have a way to control how we are entering our motherhood, even when so many other things are out of our control, right? And the best and easiest way to do that is to prepare ahead of time and understand what our body is going to be going through post birth, what our body did go through to create life and to birth that life into the world, right? We aren't taught these things. We just aren't. The things that are out there and available to us are mostly about the baby's development, the baby's growth through the 9 months that we're carrying them, right? And it's about how to support and care for baby after they are born. the lactation courses, the hospital classes, the Lamaze classes, all these things that are available to us um, are out there, right? And we know about them and we attend them, we enroll in them. But there just isn't enough information out there on our own physiological changes, our biological changes, and what our body and our minds need to be able to make this leap into matrescence. And I think that that is such a disservice to our birthing people and to our culture as a whole. So, this is a vast topic, but I really wanted to narrow in on today's episode and talk about this recovery space. Because it's not just about embracing this transition into parenthood, right? And the excitement and feeling prepared for that. It's about actually preparing for that transition, including the physical space that centers our own well-being and recovery needs. So, how do we make this shift in perspective and actually make that into action, right? And it starts with creating what I like to call your fourth trimester sanctuary. And when you're thinking about this space, you need to be thinking about the location, the functionality, and all the essential elements that make it a truly comfortable, welcoming, and just beautiful space that's uniquely yours. It's not just a room. And it's not just a corner of a room or the living room or whatever. It's you're making a haven for this transformative journey into your parenthood. And that's what I want to challenge you with today is really thinking about creating this space for yourself. And we're going to talk a little bit about what should be going into that. And just kind of how you can best approach creating this space for you and baby. So you really need this safe space, this sanctuary to have all these physical attributes, but also just this energy and feeling that really creates this space for you to process what it means to become a parent, right? And be surrounded by things that make this possible. So, down from the furniture to the lighting in the room to the smells of the room, the location is super important. I want to challenge you to find, if you can, a place on a single level, right? You don't want to be doing a lot of climbing of the stairs after just birthing a human, right? So we want to reduce the amount of exerting exercise and movement, and stairs, believe it or not, can qualify for that when you've just had a baby. So if you have a multi-level home, I highly encourage you finding this sanctuary space on a first level. If that's not possible, then I'm going to encourage you to really lie in. And I want you to make it a priority for you to stick with one place and stay there for the day. So if you have to make the climb once, do that the one time and then really have everything set up in this space so that you don't need to leave it very often. The whole goal and priority of those first few weeks after birth is trying to rest, recover, and bond with baby as much as possible. So you want to create a space that allows this to happen. So really, creating a more private area is a super important piece too, because you're going to want to have that privacy or that ability to kind of um, just shut out the rest of the world if you need to, right? In order to be able to do a lot of skin to skin, a lot of, if you're choosing to chest or breastfeed, then being able to have that seclusion, to be able to have that space to get to know each other and get to know this feeding journey, right? Because it takes a lot of practice. That was another thing I shared last week from my own experience, that my breastfeeding journey was not what I anticipated. I thought it was going to just be this natural, easy process. And just because it's natural does not mean it comes naturally. It is a learned process. And so having that privacy and that space can be very supportive of that for you. So you're not having to worry about everybody else walking in on you or distracting baby or whatever else. So privacy is key. Now, functionality is super important as well. And when I say functionality, I mean, I want you to have everything set up in a way that's easy to access, doesn't require a lot of heavy lifting or moving. So having mobile caddies or a mobile cart for all your supplies that you might need can make it really easy for you to stay within the room and get what you need without exerting a lot of, lifting and stuff like that you want to avoid the first couple weeks after birth, especially for my C-section warriors. Okay. And then the furniture you have in this space is just as important. You're really going to want to make sure your bed is comfortable and supportive, that your mattress or a topper that you have on it is going to be supportive of your healing body. You also might want to consider having a chair or couch within this space. Sometimes you're going to be wanting to lie down, other times you're going to want to have a more supportive back, especially during feeds or just, other skin to skin times if you don't want to be lying down and you want to take some of that pressure off your abdomen and, your lower back and have a really supportive chair. So those are a couple pieces of key furniture that you really need to consider um, having in this space so that you have a comfortable place to recover. Some other things that you want to include in this space is also a recovery kit for you. So you're going to want to have essential items. I mentioned a Peri bottle, and as a joke earlier, but this is so true. It's one of my favorite things to make sure that I recommend all postpartum mamas have is a inverted Peri bottle that you can use because you're not going to want to be wiping a lot after having baby, right? So you're going to want to have something that is a lot more comfortable for you when you're having to use the bathroom and all those things or to cleanse. So having things like that, like an inverted Peri bottle, a sitz bath is something that I highly recommend investing in. They make ones that are portable that actually just sit right on the toilet so that you don't have to draw a whole big bath and try to get in and out of a tub, which can be precarious, when we're recovering, especially from a major surgery like a cesarean. So having those kind of things to help you recover within this space can be super helpful. And you're also going to want things like, perineal spray or, you can have like nipple balm, all these kind of things that are going to help make you more comfortable. Um, and just really make sure that you have what you need to be able to heal. Another quick thing I'm going to mention is an infant feeding station. I mentioned the caddy or a mobile cart. This is super helpful to have for your feeding supplies. So whether you are choosing to chest or breastfeed, whether you are pumping, or whether you are bottle feeding, all of these things are going to need supplies, right? Even when you're breastfeeding, it's still helpful to have a supportive breastfeeding cushion for baby, right? To help with supporting arms and all those things. You might need like breast pads and stuff like that. Pumps, obviously, there's a lot of parts that go with that, and making sure you have everything in one place so you're not frazzled trying to find what you need just to feed your baby, right? The last thing that you want as a tired mom is a screaming newborn who is starving and you can't find the stupid burp cloth or the nipple shield that you have been looking for because it's not where you need it, right? And so having all of that in one location is super convenient, it's functional, and it's necessary for you to reduce stress and to have what you need to be able to really focus on what matters. And that's learning how to feed your baby, learning your baby's cues and hunger cues, because all of that is something that we have to learn as a new parent. All of those things and the bonding time becomes the priority for you so that you can rest and recover and bond. So I have so much more to talk about when it comes to what should be in your recovery space. And instead of just sitting here talking about it and, it would take forever to go over all of it, I actually have a really great resource for you that I wanted to tell you about. And I created a fourth trimester guide that is all about creating your ideal postpartum recovery space. And you can find the link to that in my Instagram bio. I did this amazing guide in a collaboration with the Parenting Practice of Colorado, which is an incredible group of women who are dedicated to making sure your sleep and your baby's sleep is where it needs to be. And this is from birth all the way up to adolescents. They are pediatric sleep specialists, and I'm really excited because they will actually be coming on with me on the show live February 15th, and we're going to be diving into the newborn sleep and how we can maximize that for you and your baby in a way that is baby led and is gentle. We do not go with cry it out anywhere on this program. And that is not what the Parenting Practice of Colorado believes in either. They have a very gentle approach to maximizing sleep, to understanding and learning infant sleep. And so I'm super excited to have Paige and Lindsay on. They are the owners of Parenting Practice of Colorado on February 15th to talk to us about that. But this fourth trimester guide, you can purchase it on their website through that link in my bio on Instagram. And it is going to cover everything you need in your postpartum sanctuary. And what's really cool about this guide too is it's also a workbook type of layout that I created so that you have journaling prompts, you have places that you can actually list out ideas for certain things that I have outlined in the guide so that you can really have a functional list to help you brainstorm and create this space for yourself before baby arrives. So again, check out my Instagram, and that's empowering_postpartum. And in my bio, it's the second link in my bio, and it'll just take you directly to that page to purchase the guide. It's super affordable. It's $39. I mean, it's a steal. So definitely check that out. It's super, super helpful resource for you to create your personal postpartum sanctuary. All right. So really, by creating this personalized postpartum nest, we're able to prioritize that rest, ensuring that this beautiful vision that we thought about and that we've been dreaming of, right, can actually come to life from the very beginning, right? And it can create these joyful, connective moments with our baby. And it's not overshadowed by the hard, right? It's not going to take away the hard, but it's going to allow a comfortable space for that healing, for some of those pains and discomforts, right? As we're trying to recover from trauma. Because remember, at the beginning, I wanted that to be a key thing that you walked away with is understanding that birth is trauma. And the more interventions and the more maybe problems that we run into during our labor and delivery process, the more healing our body is going to require. And not only physically, but mentally as well. Because birth trauma can be a physical thing, and it can also be a mental and emotional thing as well. And so creating this safe space for you to recover mentally and physically is going to make that process so much smoother for you and easier for you to work through versus just only focusing on creating the nursery, only focusing on what baby might need, and not realizing that this is a shared experience, right? Birth isn't just about the baby. I know that culturally, it seems like the minute baby is born, and even during the labor process, so much is about the baby, right? But once baby's born, it's like the birth giver kind of disappears into the background a lot of times. And it's all about baby now, right? And we're just this extension to our child. And that couldn't be further from the truth. If there's anything that I want you to take to heart today, it's that you are deserving of the same care and time and space and nourishment and nurturing as a human being separate from your baby just as much as your baby does when they come into this world. And unfortunately, our culture does not set it up that way for us naturally. So we have to advocate for ourselves as birth givers and as new parents to say, like, I am a priority. I am prioritizing my well-being. I am going to set things up ahead of time for myself to make sure that this happens for myself. And I'm going to identify my team and who's going to help me with that. Who is my postpartum village that I am going to set up around me from professional resources and supports to family and friends. But having that confidence and that ability to advocate for ourselves is so important. And this is one way that we can start setting that up for ourselves, is creating this sacred space, because the transition from birth to postpartum is truly a sacred transition. It is something that touches every aspect of our life, physically, mentally, emotionally. It's how it changes the way we see ourselves in relation to the world around us. There's so much here that we have to understand. It's not just about, you know, birth is just the beginning. And I say this all the time, and I will say it until my dying breath, right? Birth is just the beginning. Everything after postpartum is forever. It truly is. We transform on a cellular level physically, and our whole identity and who we are is going through this process of unbecoming and becoming again. And we're sorting through how this truly life altering thing has touched who we are and what we do and how we see ourselves and relate to those around us. So, I think it's super important that we are really embracing this, right? And that we are creating this space. This is the first step. It's a simple step. But when we are able to create this and we get it set up, it can really help us feel like we're settling in to this new life, right? And we're setting the stage and the foundation for how we are going to be approaching our postpartum. We are making a statement to ourselves and those around us that my recovery and well-being is a priority. And everything I need to make sure that that happens is going to be within this space. And this space is sacred, and this space is comfortable, and it is uniquely mine and my baby's. And we have control over how we are settling into this new life within these walls, right? And so I think it becomes so much more than just this room. It becomes this gateway into our parenting journey. And I think that this is such an important yet simple concept that we can really latch onto at the beginning to be able to make those small steps in, prioritizing ourselves in parenthood and setting that foundation for ourselves as we begin this journey. So, not only because we're talking about, a lot of the we've touched on some of the things outside of the immediate benefits of having this space. But there are a lot of additional benefits that go beyond just that fourth trimester, right? And I've talked about this, setting this stage, this foundation of parenthood, and starting from the very beginning of prioritizing our own health, prioritizing our own mental and physical well being, and really setting that up as a priority from day one so that we don't allow ourselves to become martyrs to our motherhood. And I say this all the time. It's one of my favorite mantras to tell them to tell a new parent, like, you do not have to be a martyr to your motherhood. A good mother, a good parent is not somebody who sacrifices everything for their child, because then what is left to be able to care for that child and to be able to model for them healthy self-love and healthy self-care and all of those things that we are teaching our children that they are, internalizing. And so if we aren't showing them that, they have no model for that for themselves. And so if nothing else, if your own well-being and your own recovery and your own self-care is something that's difficult for you to advocate for at the beginning, then there's nothing wrong with at least starting to do that for the sake of your child. If that's the motivation that you need, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that will start helping you practice these things, and it will become more second nature to say, you know what? Yes, I am a priority. I do deserve to have this separate space, this separate you know, care for myself as well. But it really truly does. It sets the foundation for our entire parenthood when we start out from the beginning, making our own needs a priority just as much as our babies. So it's more than just a space. And I've said this a couple times, but I want to really drive that fact home. It's not just a room, it's not just a place to recover. It's really this gateway to setting the foundation to your parenthood and understanding that a good parent, there's no such thing as a perfect parent. So let's just kick that to the curb, right? Super mom does not exist. It's a toxic mentality, but a good enough parent is what we should strive for. And good enough means caring for the parent, right? And making sure that your well being, your mental health, your physical health is prioritized because you will not be able to show up as a good enough parent if you can barely function, right? If you are so depleted and there's no path or preparation to get you replenished, then we're always going to be, coming from a place of emptiness, right? It's so cheesy and I really, it's tired and overused, but the whole idea of you can't pour from an empty cup is it's annoying, but it's true. Like it's so true. You cannot give if you aren't giving yourself what you need first, right? So I always, another thing you can think of is when you're on an airplane and they always tell you when they're going over the safety rules, when the air masks come down, if there's an emergency, right? They always say you have to put your air mask on first before you help, others around you or children around you. And it's the same kind of concept. If you are not caring for yourself first, there's no way that you will be able to fully connect and care for that precious little baby that you are so excited to meet, right? And I talk a lot about new parents, but this is the same story across the board, even if this is not your first rodeo when it comes to pregnancy and birth, right? You may be a seasoned parent who, is going through another birthing and postpartum experience, and you didn't do any of this stuff beforehand. And you don't need to beat yourself up about that. This is actually a beautiful opportunity for you to heal from those experiences and to start anew and to really start being this, parent that prioritizes themselves through this new beginning and this opportunity to embrace that you are important and that your recovery is important. So, really, by prioritizing ourselves, we're shattering the expectation of bouncing back after birth. And bounce back culture or snapping back or all these different things that we hear or see or are pressured to do is such a toxic societal myth. And we're going to explore a lot more of that a little bit further in next week's episode. So be sure to tune into that. Because I'm gloves are off, people. I have bounce back culture's number. Okay, so we're gonna really dive deep into that. But that's something that is just it's such a suffocating pressure that especially new moms have, that there's this expectation to get back to doing everything that you were able to do before with a baby on your hip, right? And that you should be able to fit in your pre-pregnancy jeans, 6 weeks or sooner after having baby and all these things. And it's just one, it's not possible. There is no going back to a pre-pregnancy body because, as we said before earlier in this episode, our body changes on a cellular level from pregnancy, right? So there is no going back. But there's a lot of other things that goes into that as well. So we'll be diving deep into that next week. But it's just so important. And as we wrap up our discussion today around this idea of the postpartum sanctuary, I want you to remember too that the journey doesn't end here, right? This is just, like I said, that gateway. This is the beginning of you stepping into that new motherhood, that parenthood journey, right? And so creating your postpartum sanctuary is just one small step in the overall process when it comes to preparing for birth and postpartum and parenthood as a whole. So there's so much more that goes into preparing for this transition into your parenthood or motherhood. So if you're really looking for a more comprehensive postpartum plan and that guidance and support in actually implementing it once baby is here, I really want to encourage you to check out my Empowering Postpartum Coaching Program. You can find a lot of information on that on my website. My website is empoweringpostpartum.com. And if you go to empoweringpostpartum.com/empoweringpostpartumcoaching, you will find that program and all the information that you need about it. But it is a very hands on coaching program where we walk through not just this piece of the postpartum sanctuary, but all of the interconnected pieces that are so crucial for creating a postpartum experience that you deserve, where your well being is centered, so that you can have this gorgeous vision that you had at the beginning of this show of what it will look like once you have baby in your arms. And again, that just doesn't happen naturally for so many of us. Some people get lucky and they have a very easy postpartum experience. But for the majority of us, that's not just going to happen by going with the flow and just hoping for the best, right? By preparing ahead of time, we have some of that control and that empowerment of advocating for ourselves and creating a space for this to actually happen. And that's what we do when we work together through my program is we work through the 5 pillars of postpartum wellness that I have created through my own experiences, my own education, all of the things that I've worked on since the birth of my first son and that first experience of entering into motherhood that did not go the way I had hoped and I had envisioned, right? It was heartbreaking. And I clawed my way out of that deep, dark hole. And I refused to go through that again with my second. And I was so inspired by the differences between my two postpartums because of all this work and these 5 pillars that I focused on for my second birth, that I knew that I had something special that I needed to share with the world, that I needed to share with other birth givers to help make their journey one that they could treasure and one that they could look back on fondly instead of barely remembering and just having this feeling of heartbreak. And so I think that that's really where this program was born. And those 5 pillars of postpartum support and wellness that I have that we work through together during this process of the preparing, there's really 2 stages of this coaching program. One is the pregnancy and prep piece. So we create your plan, we work on those 5 pillars, we make it unique to your journey, your family, your particular situation. And then after baby is born, you have me in your back pocket. You know, so many new parents, me, I was not an exception to this, late night Googling, right? 2 in the morning, is this normal? Or like, what's wrong with me? Like, this is happening, right? And then like Google tells you like you're dying. So it's not the best thing, right? Dr. Google is not your friend as a new parent. Let me just put that out there. But having me in your back pocket, I am a lactation counselor. So, you know, any feeding hiccups or whatever you're struggling with in that vein, whether you are chest or breastfeeding or you're bottle feeding, you know, you don't have to try to figure it out on a mommy blog. You'll have me in your back pocket and we can do a virtual feeding session. We can create a back to work plan. We can create a pumping plan. We can create all these things that you need to be successful in your infant feeding journey. But also you're going to have a really important piece to postpartum wellness and healing, which is nutrition. It is so often overlooked, and we're going to dive really deep into this next week with the Bounce Back Culture episode. But nutrition is such an overlooked but powerful tool for recovery when it comes to postpartum. And so when you enroll and we work together one on one in my coaching program, you get access to a postpartum specific meal plan that has 6 full weeks of super simple, delicious foods that are designed to help heal your body. They are designed to help you regulate your hormones, to get better sleep, and to help support your milk supply if you are choosing to breastfeed. So you get all of that as well. We work on a plan on creating those meals ahead of time as much as possible during that prep phase in the pregnancy phase, so that you are ready to go. You have a bunch of meals already set up that are actually going to help you recover and not add more digestive discomfort and issues like some of those cheesy casseroles and things like that that we think we're helping ourselves with by putting them in the freezer before birth, when in actuality they're not exactly what our postpartum body needs to heal. So you'll get, your own customized postpartum plan. You'll get the implementation support and guidance after baby is here. You'll get all of the infant feeding support that you need, and you will get the nutrition plan and coaching that you need as well to really focus on healing from the inside out when you sign up and enroll with me to work one-on-one together. So super excited. If you have any questions over that program at all, visit my website. It has a ton of information on it, but you can always message me. Either shoot me a DM on Instagram when you're checking out my 4th trimester guide that is over there. Or you can send me an email, which is just jessi@empoweringpostpartum.com. You can ask me any questions that you might have over the program, whether it's a good fit for you, whatever you might have questions about. We can work through that together and see if it would be the right fit for you and your family. So I'm super excited to hear from you guys. And if you do check out the postpartum sanctuary guide that you can find on my Instagram bio, I'd love to hear your feedback on it. Was it helpful? Were you able to create this beautiful space? Did you love it? Shoot me an email or let me know on my socials how you loved it and if it was helpful for you, because I'd love to get that feedback and be able to share that with other people as well. So definitely let me know what you think. And I look forward to helping so many more postpartum parents and pregnant parents really feel empowered and in control of your journey, because I feel so strongly that, especially as women in this Western culture of ours and in this modern society, we're expected to be a perfect parent, a perfect wife, a perfect friend, a perfect daughter, all of these things, right? And being all these perfects include always being self sacrificing, right? And I want us together to start breaking down that expectation and to start demanding and advocating for better for ourselves, because we do deserve better. Our families deserve better. And when we start advocating for ourselves as women, as birth givers, and saying, the enough is enough, we need to start putting ourselves at the top of our priority lists. We need to allow ourselves the space and the time to heal properly and to not push ourselves to try to get right back into the game, right after creating life within our own body and then birthing that life into the world, right? Like, it's mind-boggling to me that that birth has just become such a routine thing, right? It's become super medicalized. It's become all these things where it's just like this routine thing. And the incredible miracle of the whole process has been lost, right? And so I think helping ourselves take a step back and say, like, it is incredible what my body has done. It is incredible. And I appreciate what my body has done. And I want to set up a space for my body to be able to recover from that feat. It's incredible. And my baby deserves a well rested, fully healed, mentally present, functional parent. And I deserve that myself, right? And when we start really advocating for that and prioritizing that, we start seeing shifts in not only our relationship with our baby and our connectedness with our baby, but with our connection and our relationships with our older children, if we have them, with our partners, especially. This is a really big key piece in my program that I work with my clients on is how can we nurture our relationship with our partners and ensure that we're on the same page, that's so that we are sharing the load of parenthood from the beginning and understanding that we are a team and we need to stop saddling everything on one parent, typically the woman in the relationship, because the birth giver is already dealing with enough going on with their own healing and their own adjustment to parenthood. And we need to be able to give them that space and time as partners, right? And so, really working together and seeing that relationship thrive instead of wither away, because having kids is one of the biggest disruptors in a relationship. And we see a ton of issues and fighting and resentment growing in marriages and partnerships after the birth of a baby because we're just not together. We're not on the same page. We're not prioritizing our time. So, anyway, when we really start prioritizing ourselves and setting up this space to recover as the first step, we are really setting a standard and creating that foundation of entering into our parenthood on our own terms. So I'm super excited to hear from you guys. Definitely check out my Instagram page for the link to the plan, the postpartum sanctuary guide, and check out my website for my one-on-one coaching program. So, thank you for joining me again today. This show that you are hearing can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. So please check out http://spanglishworld.ca for all the news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. And I'm super excited to see you guys here back next week as we tackle bounce back culture and why it is a toxic myth. So we will see you guys then. Super excited to hear from you, and I hope you guys have a great week.